I thought you were a Fed.
And I thought you were a Fed.
I was a Fed.
Yeah.
I'm not a Fed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. To all the ladies in a place with style and grace, allow me to lace these lyrical Dutches in your bushes.
What else are you lying about? If you lied that you didn't know your dad was CIA, are you lying that you are CIA, or the extent of your cooperation with CIA? That was a natural question. But we did more digging over the course of the last week, and we found about half a dozen other clips that Tucker knew and said publicly that his father was involved in the CIA. So I'll play this compilation for you right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. To all the ladies in a place with style and grace, allow me to lace these lyrical Dutches in your bushes, who rock grooves and make moves with all the mommies, the back of the club sipping them out.
Tucker took a shot, I retaliated, and I think he didn't expect how badly it would go for him. So here it is.
And he's attacking my dad as a CIA. His dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn, actually, yeah, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Now, shortly after that video, shortly after that show that I did about Tucker, this exchange, Tucker reached out to me. He called me on the phone. And I won't say exactly what happened there. I don't want to betray his confidence, but he called me on the phone and we had an amicable conversation. We sort of leveled with each other. And I would say it was cordial, friendly, and civil. And so we talked things out a little bit on the phone.
And so when I applied to CIA, and I've taken a lot of crap, including from Putin, like, oh, you're from a CIA family. Well, yeah, obviously my father worked in conjunction with CIA. I mean, that's what that is. And I tried to join the CIA.
And then his team reached out about a month ago, and they said they wanted to bring me on the show. It was challenging. It was fair. We did something like a pre-interview. That's how I would characterize it. Sunday night, we walked through many of the topics, and we actually laid out exactly what we would be speaking about Monday morning. And we walked through every single thing we would talk about. And he told me, this is what I'm going to ask you. There were no surprises, no ambush.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. To all the ladies.
And the guy who took out Mossadegh lived on my street.
In a place
One of the Roosevelt CIA officer. So, I mean, again, I grew up around this stuff, but
that's why it's not happening.
But they seem to be doing so many other things. I mean, I applied to CIA. My dad worked with CIA. I was never against CIA. I thought only like dumb liberals were against CIA, and traitors or whatever.
And we have the internet to expose the lies. This isn't 20 years ago when you were on CNN.
Yeah.
And we couldn't expose things. We can expose it now, and they still do it.
Well, I guess I would ask myself, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever.
To all the ladies.
I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm always honest, sometimes to my detriment. And we walked through every single thing we would talk about. And he told me, this is what I'm going to ask you. There were no surprises, no ambush.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Nick, I'm gonna be honest. This I watched the entire episode, and Nick. I mean, it's hard to listen to Nick. It just, he reminds me of like that evil Smeagol when he's like tempting himself to take the ring, or to off Frodo and take the ring for himself. When it comes down to where he's at today, or where in terms of this particular interview, popularity is not a sign of an intellectual or a morally consistent person by any stretch of the imagination. It's hard to hear someone talk the way he talks and somehow gain the reputation of being a revolutionary of sorts. But I was hopeful that at least he'd speak what he believed, while really the majority of content creators on the right were just being firmly cucked by Trump, honestly.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
And now 10 years into this, we get, oh, Epstein's, that's all fake. Here's the MLK files that you wanted. And you go, really? Fuck you.
Tucker called him a gay kid in his parents' basement. Now, Nick presented clips that suggested that Tucker is lying about a history that is steeped in CIA activity. Reasonable people would agree that it's an understatement to present this as some kind of mudslinging contest.
People said, well, why didn't you talk about these Fed accusations on the show? And to be honest with you, we basically agreed in an unspoken way.
This isn't something that's going to be solved with a silent agreement. This needs to be solved on the same platform, because anybody who was paying any type of attention to what was being said in that particular clip from earlier would agree that Tucker Carlson may absolutely be a Fed. In an ideal world, Tucker would be working at McDonald's with Tenant Media Tim and Chorus's David Pakman, after claiming and just boldly like, oh, I just didn't know. And he, I mean, like, I don't know if these guys have like the, like, just, they all have PR training to try to like cosplay as normal people, but that's kind of what it seems like now, honestly. You gotta watch out for a lot of this, but normally I wouldn't pay attention to Nick going mainstream, to join the slew of content creators who are willing to sell out for money or proximity to power. But we're in peculiar times for his ideology to be platformed. And no one on the right addressed the very troubling findings that suggest that Trump and Epstein may have shared predilections.
Documents in her book, Perversion of Justice, The Jeffrey Epstein Story. As Brown writes, in 2016, an anonymous woman, using the pseudonym Kate Johnson, filed a civil complaint in a federal court in California, alleging she was raped by Trump and Epstein when she was 13, over a 4-month period, from June to September 1994. I loudly pleaded with Trump to stop, she said in the lawsuit about being raped. Trump responded to my pleas by violently striking me in the face with his open hand and screaming that he could do whatever he wanted. Brown continues. Johnson said that Epstein invited her to a series of underage sex parties at his New York mansion where she met Trump. Enticed by promises of money and modeling opportunities, Johnson said she was forced to have sex with Trump several times, including once with another girl, 12 years old, whom she labeled Marie Doe. Trump demanded oral sex, the lawsuit said, and afterward he pushed both minors away while angrily berating them for the poor quality of the sexual performance, according to the lawsuit, filed April 26th in U.S. District Court in Central California. Afterward, when Epstein learned that Trump had taken Johnson's virginity, Epstein allegedly attempted to strike her about the head with his closed fists, angry he had not been the one to take her virginity. Johnson claimed that both men threatened to harm her and her family if she ever revealed what had happened. The lawsuit states that Trump did not take part in Epstein's orgies but liked to watch, often while the 13-year-old Kate Johnson gave him a handjob. It appears Trump was able to quash the lawsuit by buying her silence. She has since disappeared.
Like it was some kind of right-wing Republican or something that came up and said, like, what's more deep state than covering for and I was like, he's got a point. He's like if we're talking about deep state stuff, that's it. So like this was one thing, right? This was one thing, and this is very important because this proves a level of moral decay in terms of just the whole right in general. But there were other alarming deviations from anti-establishment rhetoric. Freedom cities are really just 15-minute cities that Trump waved his advertising wand at and renamed them Freedom Cities. Trump tapping Palantir was just it was a blatant spit in the face. If Epstein was just a blatant like smack in the face and shoved down into human feces, and this is the blatant support for Israel to just completely quash protest. It was insane, absolutely insane. In terms of where we're at now, though, right? Like, even though he didn't address any of these things, he still pushed back, right? Like, this is not, this isn't true. You know that we know you're lying. Today, he is flirting with the idea that Trump is based.
And the press asked the president, what do you think about John Bolton being indicted? And Trump literally did the line. He goes, I didn't hear about that. You're telling me for the first time. The absolute madman. We have to give the credit where it's due.
And that the right war is good.
I think that it would be a good thing if America could take all their oil and natural gas. We need the energy. We want the energy.
And that there needs to be intense or increased crackdown on protesters.
There's 10 million people here illegally. We're getting them out. You're rioting. You're going to jail too. Like, it has to be crushed.
In terms of the idea of him talking about war in this particular way, it's a stark sign that he approves of the deep state, of deep state goals. If we get the resources of any foreign country, the benefit is not going to trickle down to farmers, plumbers, or the working class in general. I want people to understand something. There are around 3,500 billionaires in the world. Our best friend, Jeffrey Epstein, was on his way to becoming a billionaire. They are not the smartest or the most hardworking among us. Many of them are slightly above average intelligent people who are willing to do the wrong things for the right people. When it comes down to common Republicans, they have to separate their ideology from the idea that it's in their interest to protect wealthy people in general. Now, in terms of today, right, this ideology, it's important now because Republicans are willing to cheer at the sight of Democrats being outraged at something. And this, what we're experiencing now, it's not normal in a way that I don't think Republicans quite understand yet. Because another South American country, Argentina specifically, they have some insight really specifically for the people who support the administration and what's been going on.
I didn't really, live what happened before, but I know that there was a lot of people who were just fed up with the, and they welcomed the military. And then, of course, what happened was pretty awful.
At one time, most of the young people in Argentina thought the Montoneros and the guerrilla groups represented the future of Argentina. They were idealistic. And of course, there was the tremendous frustration of Perón's return. The belief was that after 18 years in exile, he would come back and restore Argentina. Got 60% of the vote, more than 60% of the vote. And so there was enormous expectation. And then all of a sudden, these people who believed that they were going to go along the road at that time of Mao or Che Guevara suddenly realized that Perón was on the other side.
Now, before my rewrite, I actually had a joke in the script about Trump advertising the Democrat Tears vaccine, but I'm actually afraid that some Republicans would actually change their mind on this idea of RNA vaccines. I think we gotta realize just how insane it is to think of anybody else renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War. People just thought that, hey, he's gonna do away with the mask of civility, not just do away with civility. That's what they got. And it's absolutely insane. But as I said before, I'm not a fan of our groiper leader. But for those who are, you got to be careful. You're going to have to be careful. The idea of Trump trampling on free speech, I've heard very little, pushback from this community of cocks that have been on the right wing of the content creators.
Do you know if there were any directives from the government to the press on the handling of news on human rights violations?
This was another very important piece of the jigsaw. Quite shortly after the coup d'etat, while I myself, in my newspaper, was still praising the armed forces for having carried out a bloodless coup, we received a telephone call in the newspaper instructing us that from now on we were prohibited from publishing any information about the disappearance of people, the discovery of bodies, and other crimes connected with the subversion without official confirmation.
This is a problem. This is not something that should be cheered on by any stretch, right? And we've had figures right now that are in the orbit of Trump now that very much they very much hint at where we're at now in terms of where he's at and where we're heading.
About I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes.
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
Now, J.D. Vance in particular, that was the red flag that made me really question the anti-establishment rhetoric. It felt like you are picking this guy as your VP, and knowing the power that this guy is going to be able to hold, especially if you actually end up being successfully assassinated, that was a red flag for me. But anyone touting that J.D. Vance is, someone who would be a great candidate to replace Trump, you guys should understand that this person is compromised. They are given in to blackmail or money of some whatever mix of the two. You need to watch that. He holds whatever values gets him closer to power. That's it. He had there like J.D. Vance is empty of actual of beliefs as far as he's platformed and spoke out about. In fact, I think he's more dangerous in the current environment because right now he's a more competent puppet. There are people who want to transition us from chaos into the order that is convenient for them, right? And his baby daddy, Peter Thiel, I think it's really, really great that he was somewhat exposed for his Christian grift, but I think we should realize that he was successful before this attempt at the whole Antichrist charade that he's trying to put on now, or the combator or the fighter against the Antichrist, if you will. But we need to realize that he was successful as really painting himself and as a libertarian. And for anyone who doesn't realize this yet, the government's push for crypto is really about a permissioned ledger, right? And what that means is crypto would essentially do the exact opposite from the claims of being a tool for financial freedom. And this guy, he's the most likely candidate for the Antichrist. This guy has been awarded by our government a significant amount of power, right? He is very much intertwined with a lot of what goes on in weapons industry and of course the surveillance as well. In terms of another figure that needs to be scrutinized is Steve Bannon. He's underrated. I think he's really underrated in terms of his ability and his talent, really, in terms of presenting and projecting the idea of being anti-establishment. And I want you guys to understand just how much, how confident and how much Steve Bannon may realize this actual talent that he has.
They bonded, Bannon and Epstein, over their fascination and probably hatred of Donald Trump at that time, because both were on the outs with him. So at some point, Bannon suggested to Epstein that he help him improve his image. And the way he was going to do that was he was going to help him get on 60 Minutes, and he was going to sort of train him in how to deal with the media. So he records 15 hours of videotape. So it's very interesting, this relationship that's coming out. And just to make matters more interesting, nobody really knows where this videotape is. There's an article this week in the Hollywood Reporter wondering if the videotape belongs to the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. Other people say that maybe Bannon still has it. Again, I called Bannon today asking him that same question, but I haven't heard back.
Assuming that this is true, he took on the challenge of improving the image of the most infamous. I think we need to understand that he is probably the best at holding up this anti-establishment mask. Now, I really want to share my definition for a globalist to make a point here.
Allow me to lace
they're rich people who are looking for ways to increase their ability to control the natural world and the people inside of it. Right now, today, the rich are actually desperate to get you to look at anyone but them. These wolves in sheep clothing are especially valuable to them, or just being a wolf in sheep clothing is especially valuable to them right now. After this sit down, fans of this guy, you guys gotta watch out, because this is very troublesome here. This interview makes me worry because it seems like this ideology that Nick is really latching onto, it may have been deemed the most useful in getting poor people to fight one another.
I think that it would be a good thing if America could take all their oil and natural gas. We need the energy. We want the energy.
Nick doesn't have children, right? And that's by no means like a strike against Nick to not have kids. The problem compounds though when it comes down to the idea of being pro-war and being anti-free speech, being pro-unquestionable government, unquestionable federal government.
There's 10 million people here illegally. We're getting them out. You're rioting. You're going to jail too. Like, it has to be crushed.
When you start to compound that, you realize like, oh, this is the world that if you had kids, that they would live in. And you don't really have that, so it kind of comes into play. Like, do you really care about anything else other than what's happening with you and your life?
But I don't care, because I do fucking hate the poor.
Because it doesn't quite seem like it, but there is no skin in the game for a lot of these guys, right? These guys who talk to their audience for a living.
And they're angry, saying Trump murdered people. They're saying he murdered civilians. And I'm like, wait, what?
They are confident that they'll never have to fight in a war. They'll never be the soldier with the gun or the bayonet. They can be comfortable there while the rest of the population goes through the consequences of their words. And you guys really gotta appreciate that the time that we're in today, because this is a very crazy time. I mean, Alex Jones is he's talking about how microchips in brains may not be a bad thing, like in defending like Elon and his like weirdo obsessions. They're really dependent on the idea that your attention spans won't be long enough to really hold them to any type of accountability. Him sitting down with Tucker and not addressing this particular, these allegations, or him silently agreeing not to address the allegations or something. He admitted that these topics were actually rehearsed. And something really tells me that the oligarchy, or the quote-unquote deep state, they may soon use him as a scapegoat after they get done with Trump.
Alleging she was raped by Trump and Epstein when she was 13.
And for anyone out there who thinks that this one guy is the boogeyman who's able to play 5D chess and figure out all the ways to expand ICE and allow Elon to pretend that he's doing anything financially relevant to common people, you should really wake up. All of this stuff going on right now with everything, if Trump went too far off script, they would have slid that fat orange weirdo a video of him having sex with a kid and told him to chill out.
Most of the young people in Argentina thought the Montoneros and the guerrilla groups represented the future of Argentina. And then all of a sudden, these people who believed that they were going to go along the road at that time of Mao or Che Guevara suddenly realized that Perón was on the other side.
This oligarchy, the same oligarchy that is allowing all of these people to be fired, that's allowing all of this havoc to be wreaked on the streets in terms of people to be literally sent off and, I mean, basically kidnapped at this point. These people, this oligarchy is bipartisan.
So yeah, I started a new series which is called First Friends, which is sort of like a play on, you know, like First Lady. And yeah, the idea is what you said, exploring the possibility of figures close to Donald Trump, still close to Donald Trump, that have unusual, or rather that have never been reported about connections to Epstein. Which suggests that, you know, if I could find it, I'm sure the New York Times and these people could have found it too.
If Elon went against the actual deep state, he wouldn't be firing park rangers, and instead of going to have like civil discussions with the Pentagon, he would have spoke out against the budget that they were about to receive, and he would have went out like JFK. People say that ICE is really utilizing the sophisticated surveillance and creating profiles on Americans, you know, with technology like Palantir.
Who rock grooves and make moves with all the mommy. The back of the club, sipping them up is where you find me. The back of the club.
Oh yeah, no, that's a threat.
A 15-year-old
That's a
girl,
threat.
they get, what, 6 cars? They throw her to the ground like she just got done robbing a bank.
But I think that we can safely assume that Palantir is actually utilizing ICE. It's more likely that they are useful idiots or desperate people being used to do the groundwork for these quote-unquote freedom cities. And I want you guys to be careful, because the ability to speak freely shouldn't equate to free speech. This idea of Rumble being this playground for you guys, yeah, that's you really gotta watch these things and really gotta understand what they could be linked to. When it comes down to Nick, he seems to want it both ways, right? He's taking advantage of what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Things that concern me the most, it's the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it wasn't just that he got shot, it was what happened afterward, which is that 100,000 liberals went on TikTok and celebrated. And that shows that how can you integrate or harmonize with people that hate you that much?
He's focusing on the democratic response and how, like, these people were cheering on Charlie Kirk. Mental illness is on both sides of the aisle. Like, there are people who are cheering the ability to end free speech on the right now. You know, like, this idea of where we're at today, it's a problem it's most certainly a problem, but the focus would be on why did he die, who pulled the trigger, right? That's what we need to find out, right? Especially if you were actually a friend of Charlie Kirk. The timing of this whole thing and everything else, like, you can't take this, you can't seriously look at what's being presented by people like Max Blumenthal and Candace and think that, oh, there's nothing here. To have Nick start to kind of like just even stay on the idea of, oh, the response was so crazy from the Democrats. If Nick really doesn't care about common people, this makes sense.
But I don't care, because I do fucking hate the poor.
It's hard not to see this as a sign that someone is willing to sell out to a sick society that would award questionable actions and activities.
The person who has been the inspiration behind the Sustainable Oceans Alliance, who really has something called Terramar Project. She controls the oceans around the world. If you were to look at the website, you have the opportunity to buy up parts of the ocean through her. And therefore, I invite my dear friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, to tell us how we can own the oceans.
I'll do my best. First of all, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to thank you so much, and it's such an honor to be here.
Tucker Carlson was done the moment he pretended not to know his dad was CIA. But this idea of Nick, it was different. Regardless of how flawed the ideology is, I never believed that he was a Fed before this interview. Even though Nick Fuentes may have started off as someone who was more legitimate in terms of what they believed and believing in something, it seems like he may be joining really most of these content creators now who really look for ways to monetize their ability to keep poor people mad and blaming one another for their problems.
I came from America. I came from the working class. My parents are not in politics. I come from Chicago. I come from a city that isn't connected, let's say, in the way that DC and New York and New England are.
Maybe we shouldn't question why. For who among us can blame a man who sits at our side? A man who has the opportunity to look up at the sky? A man who imagines that they themselves can one day rise? Maybe Olympus does exist above us earthly beings. Maybe I'm just a little less forgiving. 'Cause all I see is two Feds in a dream.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. To all the ladies in a place with style and grace, allow me to lace these